All right, guys. Welcome in. Coach Steve here with you once again, back on my 32 teams in 32 days. We're on day 11 or 12 at this point. Pretty tired. A lot of information that's been going out there. But,
Steve here with you.
sorry, I'm listening to my one stream as we go, just so I have any questions pop up. If I can't see them, I will know. So, again, Games Coach Steve Pintado. I am the host of the Fantasy Coaches podcast. I'm a member of Unwrap Sports Network also, and he coming to you live talking about the New England Patriots today. We've done a lot of teams up till now, and we're going to continue the trend, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And today's, I said, New England Patriots, so we're going to get right into it. And there's going to be a breaking news in between at some point, so it's going to be a lot of fun to talk. We'll start with the quarterback situation at first, and everyone's wondering who's going to start. Jason, I mean, maybe no one's. Maybe you all understand who's starting Week 1: Jarrett Stidham or Cam Newton. And I would be really shocked if Jarrett Stidham starts Week 1. Hey, Zach Sports, thanks for joining. But I wouldn't be that surprised because again, Cam Newton hasn't really been there. It really depends on how much practice they get. But again, Cam's a professional. He doesn't probably need this much as long as he knows the offense very well. I think Bill will throw him out there Week 1. If not, I think Jarrett Stidham starts Week 1, and we'll kind of go from there. And more than likely, they're throwing Cam Newton throughout the season and kind of get him going. But in reality, I said Jarrett Stidham is not a draftable guy unless he becomes a Week 1 starter or whatever. I mean, even then, he's still not drafted because you would assume that Cam Newton's going to have to go in at some point. And if Cam gets the Week 1 nod, I expect him to be the full-time starter all season long. And if that's the case, you're looking at a guy who has been very productive over his career, had a decent rushing floor. And, he averaged like 500 yards almost a season in his rushing ability. And he's been a top 5 quarterback 4 different times throughout his career. So he's done a lot of good things. And I don't know if you're going to get the same rushing floor. Again, he's a little older now, but you should expect between 350 and 450 next season, I would say, if he's the full-time starter. He's going to do different things, even though the offense isn't going to change with him being in it, but he'll move and run a little bit more than Brady would to dump it off to say someone or something like that. And again, he's not the best receiver, the best thrower, but he's got okay wide receivers. I mean, Edelman, Harry, and Sanu, I think they're pretty decent. Doesn't have a great tight end, but he's got enough to work with, especially with James White too in the backfield. Good passing value, and I think this will help just overall help the team out in general with the run game and everything. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But what do you see him this year? I mean, he is probably not a QB1. I would be a little shocked if he became a QB1. He's got, like I said, he's got accuracy issues overall, and he's actually, still making sure he's able to come back from his, health. And those are 2 big key factors right there. And he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey anymore, so that is not going to help his overall value. But again, he's done it without Christian McCaffrey. He's been the top 5 quarterback before, guys. So when you're looking at Cam Newton, I think he's in that tier with Stafford and Rodgers in that 10 to 12 range where, not your Stepping Stone. It's a great name. He's in that range right there where he has QB1 potential, but more than likely he's going to be a high QB2, someone you could rely on as your quarterback 1 in QB1 leagues. But no, you absolutely could. He's got the rushing floor, and he's got enough in the passing game with Bill Belichick and this Patriots offense that he's going to be a decent quarterback. I don't know if you're going to see the Cam Newton who was a top 5 guy anymore, but top 12 quarterback, yeah, I could see that easily come into next season. And I think that's what you're getting from Cam Newton if he's the Week 1 starter. If he's not, still a draftable guy later, but because Jarrett Stidham's probably not going to keep the job if he loses a game or 2, Cam Newton's going in. Going over the running backs now. There's a lot to talk about here because there's obviously a big breaking news. Lamar Miller just signed a 1-year deal with the New England Patriots. And we talked about that on my podcast tonight, and I wouldn't be too concerned about it. I think it's a body because, obviously you can't just go into James White, Burkhead, and Damian Harris. You got to have someone else in there, especially someone who can run with the ball. And I think that's kind of why you bring in a guy like Lamar Miller, a veteran, just in case, Sony's on the pump or however may you see it. And while Lamar Miller has, he's 29 years old now, he's had definitely has a bunch of carries on him. Oh, thanks for starting to follow the broadcast. He's not the same Lamar. He's not the same guy he once was. I don't see him being 240 plus 900 yards guy anymore. I just don't. You'll never see that in this offense. So I'm not worried about drafting Lamar Miller unless somehow he's a day one starter. Right now, as it is, he has to pass the physical still. So I don't think he'd be the day one starter. But you never know with Bill Belichick overall on that. But again, keep your eye on the depth chart. That's going to be a key factor. Damien Harris would be next on my list here. And he's the guy I'm very interested in because I think he could be the week one starter if Sony Michel goes down. He had a redshirt freshman year, but man, this guy's a powerful runner, excellent balance, knows how to control the ball. Someone who can command 15 plus touches a game and be a 3-down back. He's very successful at his pass protection with his receiving skills. Can be a 3-down back. I think he just doesn't lack the speed maybe to be that franchise type, but it can be a 3-down back if necessary. But he's not going to be required to. And if Sony Michel's out, I think, you talk about Lamar Miller, I think it's Damien Harris. You draft this guy in the 3rd round for a reason, and he's younger, he's faster, he's probably can roll over people much better than Lamar Miller can. Damien Harris is starting to jump up boards right now, and right now he's like a probably around 14 guy that I'm willing to take a shot on because he could be the week one starter and be a league winner. And again, someone has to be the early down guy. Again, James White's going to be the passing down guy, but Sony Michel has been ineffective over the last 2 seasons now. Give Damien Harris a shot. He could be a guy who sees week one value. Rex Burkhead, someone else who kind of been like a Swift Almanac for Bill Belichick over his career. Last year, 300 yards in the rush, 279 in the air. He's had moments over his career, especially back in 2017 where he saw a top 10 stretch of fantasy value, kind of hurt in 2018. Was productive on and off. Actually had 4 games with RB2 bet numbers or better last year. So that tells you that he can do a lot of very different things and very versatile kind of player. He probably won't see a big workload like week in, week out, but he's someone in maybe like 16 man leagues that I'm willing to take as my RB4 or 5 because I think he'll have decent weeks every single week and be using this offense. And say Sony Michel's out. I mean, Rex Burkhead, James White, Damien Harris, I think they can run the show, and Rex Burkhead see backup role between the receiving game and the run game. So, again, in 10 to 12 man leagues, I don't only want to draft him, but keep your eye on him during the season because he's going to have some kind of value out of his career, and he has always shown that. So, James White, definitely a guy who will take a dip with Tom Brady being gone now, and obviously so. Tom Brady led through his running backs. I mean, he's been a guy who has a ton of targets over the last 3 seasons at least, and you saw when he saw big production, he could do it. Again, he kind of took a dip this year as predicted, but 95 targets ain't bad. And what you're looking at this year is that we've seen Cam Newton throw to passing backs and Christian McCaffrey. Again, not the same kind of guy, but he's still in the passing back. So even though he runs the ball, he does pass it off there. And I think James White is still an important part of this offense that they're just not going to go away from. He's going to get targets at some point. He's going to get carries at times. And I don't know if he's going to get 95, but he's still a pretty decent RB3 with low-end RB3 with PPR upside because he's going to catch passes. I mean, 72 catches last year. Maybe he might have 65 this year. It's still a decent amount. I mean, he's got touchdown upside. He had 6 this past season after 12 last year. Again, 6 RB1 numbers. The kid has the talent to do something, and you're going to get this guy in that round 9 to 10 range, and round 8 to 9, actually, realistically. And you should be happy. If you're in a PPR league, I'd be willing to take him. If you're not in a PPR league, I'd probably fade him down the list even more because if it's without those receptions, he's probably not going to see a big workload. Sony Michel, as we mentioned, he's on the pump list right now. There's a shot he could be on it, and he has barely ineffective last year. I mean, disappointing after playing only over 50% of the snaps just 4 times. Just managed 7 games over 10 fantasy points. No involvement in the passing game with just 20 targets. He did have 13 touchdowns in 2 seasons, back-to-back 900-yard seasons now. But he regressed as a runner. Horrible yards per carry. My concern is that the team's not winning. He's not going to be involved. I mean, only 9 carries per game in losses. Just 2.0 yards per carry in the red zone. He had a 7 red zone touchdown. So that upside kind of gone. Hey, Sean. Sean goes to Portland. What's going on, man? Is that touchdown upside gone now because Cam Newton? It's real possible because Cam Newton has that ability to be the goal line guy and just pound it in. So Sony Michel's value could go even more down. At this point, he's like he's like around 10 pick right now for me. Maybe even 11 if he keeps continuing this pump list. He's a trending down guy who I just don't see the upside in his game whatsoever. Just an inefficient runner with no receiving value and possibly no touchdown value now. I can't see it. So, I mean, he has the only running back with over 240 carries last year did not see 1,000 yards. He was RB29, while the next worst 1,000-yard rusher was RB22. So he just not efficient with his runs, and I don't expect him to really be that kind of guy this season whatsoever. Going over the wide receivers now, Jakobi Meyers was a rookie last year. Didn't do too much, but kind of productive at times. Didn't have any touchdowns, no real fantasy relevant season. Had 2 top 36 performances. Playing time count was kind of up and down, but projected as a slot guy. I don't know if he's going to see big value this year either because of Julian Edelman plays a slot role a lot. But he's probably going to be involved at some point, and in those deeper man leagues, he could see some valuable weeks here and there. But again, a guy I'm not really drafted. Mohamed Sanu, a big acquisition last year. He came out really good. We thought this was going to be good. I mean, 200 yards and 1 touchdown only after the switch. I mean, 8 games he was there, 1 fantasy relevant, which was after the first game. He didn't put more than 4 fantasy points up. He was a little injured, banged up, but he was heavily targeted. So I wasn't sure if it was just a chemistry issue with Brady or he was just dealing with injuries. It was used often in the red zone, but no touchdowns. I think it was just an unlucky season for him with everything going on. He could see some value with Cam Newton. He's been a guy who's been a top 35 receiver over the last few seasons, and Cam Newton can, if he gets that chemistry build, he could be a guy who could see value. And going in the late rounds, again, I'd rather take an upside guy in the late rounds. But if you're looking for, hey, thanks for the popcorn, I appreciate that. If you're looking for a guy with maybe some kind of RB3 upside, wide receiver 3 upside, Mohamed Sanu could be that. But definitely a better, not double digit, but a 16, 14-man league kind of wide receiver 5 type. N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry is, big with the Cam Newton signing because he kind of fits the bill kind of wide receivers Cam's had. Tall, lengthy wide receivers that can go up and get contested catches. Again, didn't have a good rookie year for N'Keal Harry. Suffered an ankle injury, forced him to miss the first half of the season, came back during the final 7. Didn't produce, somewhat injured, kind of limited visibility at a high level. And mostly due to Tom Brady not wanting to throw to a guy who he was like, I don't want to throw to this guy. I don't have a chemistry with him. Gave him off the field, but he was continually put on the field at times and definitely didn't perform with Brady. And Brady never performed with developing wide receivers. He just wanted that experienced guy in there. And I think Bill drafted this guy in the first round for a reason. And having Cam Newton in there, I think Cam will throw to him. And he's a guy going in around 12 to 14 right now that I'm willing to grab all day because he's a tremendous talent. Guy can go up and get the ball. Doesn't have that burst and speed, but man, good route running, be able to separate, catch the ball, contested catches. If Cam Newton's a starter, like we said, N'Keal Harry is looking for a really good season this year. And Julian Edelman, he's been a solid fantasy wide receiver since 2013. 3,000-yard seasons, Brady's main guy. Role has always been out of the slot, played most snaps from that position. 34 years old now, though. Not many receivers outside of Larry Fitzgerald have reduced top 30 numbers. He has a shot with Cam Newton, of course. Cam's going to look to this guy. He's clearly his wide receiver 1 on the team. He didn't show any reason of slowing down last year. 150 targets last year, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, 9 games of wide receiver 2 or better. Definitely someone that I think people are kind of somewhat sleeping on. That I think if you get him in round 8 right now, 8 or 9, you're getting a guy who could be a wide receiver 2 still in fantasy, and pretty much just being on because it's not sexy pick anymore. It's not 100% favored anymore. He's not going to be Cam Newton's number 1 guy anymore. Cam Newton might spread the ball a little bit more out because Brady just knows Edelman and trusts him with his soul. So that's kind of why he falls. But if Cam throws to him enough, he could be someone who sees wide receiver 2 numbers that people just aren't worrying about in drafts this year. And then the tight ends, again, not really draftable types. Dalton Keene, better to be a contributor in the passing game. Never saw big production. Offense never featured him. Showed flashes of talent, blocking and receiving. But I'm not trusting him. David, I see more of an inline blocker type. None of these guys really stand out or draftable whatsoever. So, I mean, Cam Newton's thrown to a guy like Greg Olsen for years, but don't expect the same that tight end is just going to be a featured guy in this role. None of them are talented or experienced enough to really take that helm with, Matt Lacoste taking out maybe Ryan Izzo to keep a name on in those deeper man leagues, but don't let the tight ends get you. I mean, these are dynasty stashes to see if one of them can kind of break out. So, but hey, Penguin fan, what's going on? So actually coming at the end of my stream here. But yeah, that is the end of my stream tonight, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do always love talking about some, fantasy football, talking about the teams and their values and kind of where they sit at right now. So I do appreciate you guys for listening in. As always, please go check out my website at www.thefantasycoaches.com. We have all of our great, stuff up there, articles, live streams, rankings, you name it, we got it. I'll be back tomorrow night as we do the Miami Dolphins and talking about their very possible sleeper team this year. So looking forward to that. Tune in next time, guys. Take care.